Hello, welcome back to the Works Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Ashkenazi. I've got a great episode for you guys today. A bunch of indie movies were released this weekend, and we're going to talk about all of them. But first, if you like this episode and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video, hit the bell, and get notifications, and if you really want to help keep this machine moving, please subscribe to my Patreon page. Subscribing to the Patreon page helps keep this podcast afloat, while also helping me fund some future productions, including for my band and music videos for protest art, and some other of my short films. 1 week from today, April 17th, I have a protest art show at the Club Andromeda in Nyack, New York. Tickets are available at the link in the description or at the door. This is my final headlining show of the It's All Red New York tour. I have some really fun live music videos coming up for that, and if you're still interested in checking out protest art, please give my new album, Stories from the End, a stream. You could follow me on all social media except Twitter, because fuck Twitter. This is a growing project, one I'm very passionate about, and I could use all of your support, so please check it out. Oh my gosh, so this has been such a disturbing week in world politics that I truly needed some good films to get my mind off the historic stain on human history that is our current president. AMC dropped 4 indie films this week, all of which seemingly had no marketing, and if they did, it was minimal at best. The first one on the list is Faces of Death, 2026. This is rated R, it's an hour and 38 minutes. This is from Legendary Pictures. It's a horror thriller directed by Daniel Goldhaber. This stars Barbie Ferreira and Dacre Montgomery. In 1978, a low-budget experimental horror film by the name of Faces of Death quietly became a gross-out, grotesque cult classic. In it, a mad scientist has filmed several horrific, real-life deaths, each one more gruesome than the last, and presents them to us one by one. In this documentary-like format, Faces of Death 1978 is an extremely boring film, which would likely have minimal or no impact on a modern audience. I was apprehensive about Faces of Death 2026 for the same reason I'd be apprehensive about seeing the original. I don't really enjoy plotless vignettes whose sole purpose is to make me squirm. Luckily, Faces of Death 2026 isn't a direct remake. Unfortunately, it isn't much of an improvement either, and we have to talk about it. Faces of Death 2026 stars Barbie Ferreira, Kat from Euphoria, as a social media content moderator named Margot. She works for a very TikTok-adjacent company named Kino, where users can upload short-form video content. In her reports, a pattern of videos recreating the murders of the 1978 cult classic begin to emerge. It takes some time, but Margot eventually realizes the recreated murders are real, and there is a madman killing people inspired by the movie Faces of Death. There is an idea in here, something that could have been explored and has been explored before in movies like Untraceable, but whatever clever idea they have is completely swallowed by a screenplay that can only be described as terrible. Plot holes large enough to drive an 18-wheeler through, and dialogue so inhuman and boring it makes you start counting the seats in the theater. Faces of Death attempts to give a new perspective and relevance to the original, and instead, its meta-commentary and poor script feels more like a Temu scream. Barbie Ferreira does what she can with this part. The problem is, I've seen her on Euphoria. I know how good she can be with the right material. Her performance in Faces of Death only serves to further highlight the places the screenplay is lacking. If you are one of the few cult fans of the original, I think there is actually very little for you here. None of Faces of Death 2026 is as squirm-inducing or gruesome as the original, and while the 1978 film is not good, at the very least, it accomplished its goal of being gross, much like Salo or 120 Days of Sodom from 1975, or later, The Human Centipede from 2009, right? Indie horror might be a personal favorite. Faces of Death just did not grab my attention. We needed another draft on this script, or some better looking kills, or preferably both, but we don't get either. So, Faces of Death only got a 2 out of 5 for me. But while you're listening, if you hear something that you like or disagree with, please comment below. I'd love to start building a community here of like-minded movie lovers and metalheads. If you liked Faces of Death, let me know in the comments. Up next is the very generic Beast. Beast is rated R. It's an hour and 54 minutes. It's from Grindstone, and this is a sports drama. This is directed by Tyler Atkins and stars Daniel McPherson, Bren Foster, and Russell Crowe. As with most of the movies I review, I walked into Beast cold. I didn't know anything about it, and I mean it. I hadn't seen a single advertisement for this film. No trailers, no posters. Like a lot of films this week, it just appeared at AMC. We have to talk about it. Have you seen Rocky, Southpaw, Creed? If you have seen any of these, or any other genre-adjacent titles, you've pretty much already seen Beast. Patton James, played by Daniel McPherson, is a world champion MMA fighter who is thrown in jail at the peak of his career. Once out of prison, he restarts his life. He marries the most beautiful and visually incompatible wife imaginable, Luciana, played by Kelly Gale, and becomes a fisherman working with his new friend, Gabriel, Luke Hemsworth. Patton's arrogant playboy younger brother, Malin, Mojin Arya, is still fighting, causing trouble in the ring. His brewing rivalry with Xavier Grau, Bren Foster, is starting to spiral out of control. Patton realizes he is going to be dragged into the ring again to settle his brother's debts and enlists the help of his former coach, Sammy, Russell Crowe. Now listen, Russell Crowe is a gifted actor who has given us timeless performances from Gladiator right up until Nuremberg. And despite some aging, Crowe gives a good performance here, albeit a little stiff. Crowe also co-wrote the screenplay for Beast. Experienced actors can often shift their careers to broader things. Bradley Cooper or Olivia Wilde started to direct. Giovanni Ribisi became an excellent cinematographer. Crowe should maybe stick to acting. Beast is a screenplay that never fully finds its own voice. It recreates all of the best scenes from your favorite boxing movies, sometimes to great effect. The actual fights in Beast are exceptionally well choreographed and shot. The problem is, because Beast never settles on the story it's trying to tell, rather than trying to tell stories that have already been told 10, maybe 50 times over at this point, it fails to ever find its footing. The emotional core of this movie is non-existent, and when major upsets happen, I found myself uninterested or even underwhelmed by the direction. Daniel McPherson is good in Beast, but there are also very few moments he is actually allowed to show us his character. Patton is emotionally very composed throughout the runtime of Beast, and despite huge ups and downs happening in his life, I never really felt like I was on that journey with him. Some of that is because the movie feels predetermined, because it is so closely mirroring scenes from other better films. It feels like his victory is an inevitability, and one that the audience is almost entitled to. Beast never tears through its cage like it wants to, but it does provide some good action scenes, especially in the second half. While I wouldn't rush out to see this, if you're a fan of genre films like this, Beast is an easy watch. It won't be your favorite, it's already mimicking that, but at least you'll get a new take on an old story. I also gave this a 2 out of 5. Okay, so as far as escaping into movies to avoid the threats of civilizational destruction, these titles weren't doing it for me. Please, give me something good. I was on my hands and knees last night, begging the cinema gods, please, give me something. The world cannot be this hopeless. Please. We have a man running the world and imbeciles making movies. No. 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 No, no, no. No. Alright. Last movie of the week that I saw. What do we have? Exit 8. This is rated PG-13. It's an hour and 38 minutes. It's produced by Neon, or at least distributed by Neon. This is a psychological thriller Japanese spoken with English subtitles. This is directed by Genki Kawamura and stars Kazunari Ninomiya and Yamato Kochi. If I butchered those names, I do apologize. Out of all of the random releases this week at AMC, none surprised me as much as Exit 8. We have to talk about it. Exit 8 tells the story of a man, Kazunari Ninomiya, on the subway. In a packed train car, a single mother is being screamed at by another traveler for not being able to calm her crying baby down. The man ignores the incident and exits the train into the station, heading for Exit 8. As he is walking, his ex-girlfriend calls him up to tell him she was rushed to the hospital and that she's discovered she's pregnant. She asks him, what should she do with the baby? Just as the man is set to answer, he stumbles into a hallway and loses cell phone connection. The hallway is remarkably empty. The massive crowd he exited the train with is gone. The man turns a corner, turns another corner, and suddenly finds himself trapped in an infinite loop. Trapped in this one hallway that no matter which direction he goes, he ends up in the same spot. The setup itself is engrossing as is, but then you add the technical skill being displayed as well. The entire introductory sequence is shot in first person, reminiscent of filmmakers like Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void. The sound design, as our unnamed protagonist pulls his earbuds out and puts them back in, is totally immersive. Once trapped in the loop, Exit 8 is firing on all cylinders, with clear influences from The Shining and other Stephen King works like 1408. Exit 8 is an exhilarating mindfuck of a film that keeps the audience questioning and engaged. The cinematography from Kaizuki Imamura, matched with some really skilled editing and direction, keeps the hallway looking new and terrifying with each new iteration of it. Director Genki Kawamura manages to find new angles and fresh perspectives with each reset that make this purgatory Escher loop terrifying as it is unpredictable and thrilling. I'm always one for a good metaphor, and while I have seen some argue, weirdly, that the metaphor is hit just a little too hard here, I would respectfully disagree and say the metaphor is actually fully developed here. The movie is clear in its goals and accomplishes them in spades. I had no notes. This will likely do horrible at the box office, especially domestically, but out of all of the releases this week, none compare to this. Exit 8 is where you need to be this weekend. There are just so many turns to get there. I gave this a 4 out of 5. Next week on the podcast, I'll be back with more movie reviews and a guest interview. I'm thinking I'll have a guest every 2 weeks, maybe more, maybe less. Like I said on the podcast last week, I'm changing my goals around the works. I want to expand some of the topics that we talk about on here, and I want to bring in experts to do it. So stay tuned. I will announce the guest as soon as I have that locked in. I will announce that on Instagram and my Patreon, of course. And in the comments, let me know if there's any movies that are out right now that you want me to see, that you want me to review. Until then, I will see you guys at the movies.